Hello everyone, this is Jason Merkle with Horizon Hobby, and we're out at Eli Field today, which is an RC club flying field, to show you guys something very exciting. This is the E-flite Habu STS 70mm EDF. And real quick, the reason we're out at the club field today is because that's exactly where this airplane is designed and intended to be flown. We've got a lot of different trainer aircraft in our E-flite and Hobby Zone brands, but this particular model, because it's a little bit larger, a little bit faster, it needs to be flown in a larger space, so it's perfect for a field like this that has a paved runway. We did also put oversized tires on it and really beefy landing gear, so it can also take off and land on grass. So a lot of RC club fields will also have grass strips as well. You can also fly in other large open spaces, but again, it's really intended to be flown in an RC club flying field environment. But what's really exciting about this model is that it's a jet, as you guys can see. And in years past, a lot of people said, hey, I'd love to learn to fly radio-controlled aircraft. I'd love to learn with a jet. They look cooler, they fly faster, they sound cooler than a regular, more traditional prop-driven airplane. You know, but that said, a lot of jets are very difficult to fly. They're fast, they're harder to land, they're harder to handle in the air. This airplane addresses all those concerns. Something really exciting that we did is we took a very popular model that we had many years ago, the Habu, and we optimized that design to make it a trainer. So we made the fuselage longer, we changed the shape of the wing, and we basically made it handle a lot like a traditional kind of high wing propeller driven trainer, but in a jet plane form. So it's awesome because now you can learn to fly on something that looks cool, sounds cool, and at the same time is just as easy to fly as a traditional trainer aircraft. So you guys might have heard in the name, it's an EDF, which stands for electric ducted fan. So basically there's a motor inside that's driving a fan. And so it is effectively a jet, but it is electric powered. So this is the ready to fly version that we're showing you today. It is available in two forms, the ready to fly and in the plug and play version. Be sure to check out our overview video where we go into more details and the differences between those two versions. But basically this is the version exactly how it comes out of the box. The ready to fly model version includes everything that you need. You have the DXS transmitter, which you guys can see here. We've got the 3-cell 4,000 milliamp battery installed in the airplane. It includes a charger, of course, and then the mostly factory assembled airplane. You just need a little bit of time to put it together with basically a Phillips screwdriver. No glue is required to assemble it. It's very, very quick and easy to put together. And then what's really awesome about this, and a big part of what makes it an STS, which is a smart trainer with safe, is the safe technology that we have inside. So safe technology has 3 flight modes. And so on the DXS transmitter here, we've got a switch. When it's in the back position, that's the beginner flight mode. In the middle, it's the intermediate flight mode. And all the way towards the front, it's the experienced flight mode. And so basically it's a progression. So you can start in the beginner mode, which has bank angle limits and pitch angle limits. So you can't roll the airplane upside down. So even if you hold the stick in the corner, it'll just basically make a tight turn. It won't roll upside down and crash, which a lot of people end up doing on their first flights without safe technology. Intermediate mode, also in the beginner mode, by the way, when you let go of the main control stick, the airplane will automatically go back to level. So that makes it very easy to fly. It's almost like driving a car in the sky. It makes takeoffs easier. It makes landings easier. The intermediate mode still has the bank angle limits and the pitch angle limits, so you can't pitch up too much or pitch down too much or roll upside down. It just gives you more angle to that. So you can make tighter turns and you can pitch up more and pitch down more. And also when you let go of the stick, it does not go back to level. So you have to fly it back to level, which is getting you closer to the next step, which is the experienced flight mode. In this flight mode, there's no limitations. You can fly upside down, you can do loops, you can do rolls, you can do all kinds of aerobatic maneuvers, and we'll show you guys that here in the video in a little bit more detail. But again, what's really exciting is that the RTF version does include this Spektrum DXS Smart transmitter. And the reason this is a smart transmitter is because it does actually have telemetry data coming from the telemetry capable ESC inside this airplane, goes through the flight controller and through the smart receiver to deliver the overall battery voltage back to the transmitter. So on the transmitter here, we've got the Spektrum bars at the top that light up here to show you it's on, but then right below that, we've got 4 green LEDs. These LEDs are indicating the approximate amount of battery capacity that's remaining. So you can see all 4 LEDs are lit now because I have a fully charged battery inside. So if you happen to plug in a partially charged battery, this will warn you basically, it'll show you less than 4 lights. As we fly, those lights will go down. Each one is indicating about 25%, of course, of the battery. When you get down to the last light, if you fly for a little bit after it comes on, you will actually get an audible alert that tells you your battery is low and that you should land. Now you do still have a little bit more time that you can fly before the LVC, which is the low voltage cutoff of the ESC, kicks in and starts to pulse the motor to also help you understand when you're flying the airplane that you need to land, but you should land when this audible warning goes off. So this is a really, really great feature that a lot of trainer aircraft haven't had in years past, but exclusive Spektrum Smart technology does deliver that to you. So again, we are flying it with the 3-cell 4,000 milliamp battery that's included in the ready to fly version, but you can also upgrade to an optional 4-cell battery, which has more speed, more performance. It's not going to be something, if you're learning how to fly, that you want to install right from the get-go, but down the road, especially after you learn how to fly successfully, you can actually buy that battery separately. You will also need to buy an upgrade charger because the ready to fly version does not include a charger that can charge the 4-cell battery. Be sure to check out our overview video because we do talk about that in there. Check out our website, check out the instruction manual. All these things are covered there, so you can get a different battery, different charger if you'd like. If you're an experienced pilot and you're looking at this as just a fun to fly jet, or maybe as your first ever jet, it's a lot of fun to fly on the 3-cell, also a lot of fun to fly on the 4-cell as well. So we're going to show you guys some of those different features. There's a whole lot of other details associated with this model, including that it's in our Real Flight Trainer Edition software, that there is an optional LAS sensor. That's all covered in the overview video as well. But because this is a flight talk, let's get to the flying. So real quick, I'll show you guys some of the controls on the transmitter. There's a bunch of different switches here. This is that flight mode switch I was talking about. So I'm going to switch to the beginner mode, which is all the way back. That's beginner mode. This is my throttle cut, this large switch here. When it's pulled forward, if I move the throttle stick, the motor doesn't turn on. That's for safety purposes. When I turn that to the back position now, you can hear the motor will run. So I'm going to turn that off for a second to show you guys another feature. We've got high rates and low rates. So when this switch is in the up position, we've got more control, so we can turn tighter and the controls are more sensitive. When we move this to the lower position, that's what we call low rates. Low rates has obviously less control, so it doesn't turn as tight, it doesn't maneuver as quickly and respond to controls as fast. So we do have that all built into the transmitter. This switch on this particular model doesn't do anything, but you can actually use this transmitter to fly other aircraft with. In their E-flite brand in particular, you have a lot of bind and fly aircraft that this transmitter will bind to. And then this switch would be to activate flaps or other features like that. We have the throttle here, which we talked about. This basically is the motor, the power. You've got the yaw control here, or rudder control. You can see that rudder on the vertical fin moving. You can see the nose wheel turning as well. This is our elevator here, which is up and down. Yes, you do pull back for up, you push forward for down. And then our aileron control, which is to bank left and to bank right. So we're going to show you guys all of that working in the air. I'm going to do a takeoff in the beginner flight mode to show you how easy it is to take off, basically hands-free. So first I'm going to turn my throttle cut off. I'm again in the beginner mode, and I'm going to taxi the airplane. So I'm going to use the left-hand stick here to basically steer the airplane down the runway. Now, typically, you would like to take off and land into the wind whenever you can. And full-scale aircraft, real aircraft do this as well because that helps manage the airspeed a bit better for takeoffs and landings. There's a little bit of a crosswind today. What that means is that the wind is not exactly straight down the runway. So I'm going to angle the airplane a little bit towards us so it's a little more pointed into the wind. And I'm going to show you guys, again, I'm in the beginner flight mode, and I'm basically going to do a hands-free takeoff. So I'm going to show you guys that here. So I'm not touching anything, and you can see the airplane automatically lifts off all by itself. So in the beginner flight mode, we have a little bit of up elevator built in at full throttle, so it climbs naturally. And that's to make takeoffs very, very easy. Now I'm going to go ahead and throttle back to about 2/3 power, and I'm going to show you guys the maneuvering in the beginner flight mode. So what's cool is you can see when I move the stick all the way to one side, and then if you look at the airplane, you can see it's just making a nice left-hand turn. It's not rolling upside down, and it's not going into the ground. And when I let go of the stick, the airplane goes right back to level. That's that beginner mode, that safe technology doing its job of making the airplane as easy to fly and as safe to fly as possible. So I can basically make as tight of a turn as I want with the bank angle limit in that mode. You can see it's a relatively tight turn. And when I want it to go the other way, I can let go and it'll go back to level and fly the other way. Of course, I can pull back on the stick to climb, and you can see I can't pull back enough that the airplane will actually loop over the top. It'll just basically climb up to a certain angle and that's it. And then when I let go, it goes back to level. So the beginner flight mode makes flying the airplane very, very, very easy. Something else I'll show you real quick, it's a really cool feature of the smart technology in this airplane. Right now we're a ways in the air, probably about 150 feet in the air. I'm gonna go ahead and push down elevator, and you can see the airplane is flying down, 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 and then when it gets to about 30 to 40 feet off the ground, it levels out a little bit. That's basically almost like an invisible floor that we've built in using a barometer. So when it senses that it's getting within that 30 to 40 feet from the ground, it prevents you from pushing the nose all the way down to the ground, and that's in the beginner mode and in the intermediate mode as well. So that's a really, really cool feature. Now, before we get too far into this flight, I'm gonna go ahead and do a landing in the beginner mode to show you how easy that is. So again, the wind is not exactly down the runway, it's a little bit cross, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. When you're learning to fly, you really want to avoid flying in the wind whenever you can. If you are flying in the wind, preferably you'll want to do it when it's blowing down the runway. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lose a little bit more altitude here, and I'm going to throttle back a little bit, basically on my equivalent to a downwind leg here. I'm going to bring the power all the way off, and I'm just going to let the airplane kind of slowly descend on its own as I turn and line it up with the runway. And one of the beautiful things about SAFE is it just makes it so easy to land, even in the slightly windy conditions we have today, because I don't have to fight to keep the airplane level. It automatically does that for me. So I'm actually not touching the controls right now, and the airplane is just coming down all by itself, nice and smooth. Now, when the airplane gets close to the ground, I am going to have to add a little bit of elevator to flare. Otherwise, it'll bounce. There we go. Flare just a little bit. I basically just add a little bit of elevator to help arrest the descent and smooth out that landing. Now, that optional LAS sensor that we have available, that would actually do that for you, which is a really, really cool feature. So let's show you guys one more time a takeoff in beginner flight mode, so you can see just how easy that is. So I'm going to taxi down to the other end of the runway. All right, more or less lined up on the center of the runway, and I'm just going to advance the throttle and not touch anything. And the airplane's going to take off all by itself. So easy, so awesome. And again, this is something a traditional jet airplane can't normally do for you, but this airplane being a smart trainer with SAFE, we have that functionality built in. So instead of flying it more in the beginner mode, I'm going to switch to the intermediate mode and show you the difference there. So again, I'm at about 2/3 power now. And you can see when I move the stick all the way to one side, it banks a lot more. And now it's actually losing altitude. I have to pull back on the elevator to keep the airplane from losing too much altitude. And so that's nice because now it's teaching you to fly the airplane a bit more than you have to fly it in the beginner mode. So again, I'm gonna make a tight turn and I'm gonna pull back on the stick so I have elevator mixed in. So you can see I can't roll upside down and crash, but if I don't input elevator when I make my turns, I'll lose altitude. So again, intermediate mode is helping you learn to fly the airplane more than the beginner mode. Also, when I make a turn and let go of the stick, it doesn't go back to level. I have to fly it back to level. So that's teaching you the skills that you need to progress to the experienced flight mode. So the intermediate mode makes it possible to make, of course, tighter turns. You can fly more aggressively, but then at the same time, if you get into trouble, and it's harder to get in trouble in the intermediate mode because you still can't get upside down. If I was to get into trouble, let's say I'm in intermediate mode and I'm not sure, I'm panicked, I hit my panic button and see, it goes right back to level. It basically goes back to the beginner mode for a few seconds and then it returns to the intermediate mode because I stayed in that. So that's a really cool feature. Also in the intermediate mode, we did talk about how we have that barometer in there. If I push the nose down, when it gets to 30 or 40 feet off the ground, you can see it went back to level. It has that kind of invisible floor to keep me from forcing the airplane into the ground. Really, really cool feature of the smart technology we've got built into the flight controller. So, now that we've flown it some in the intermediate mode, I'm gonna switch to the experienced mode. Now, this is a lot of fun, guys. I have to say, I've flown a lot of jets, I've flown a lot of trainers, and even though you can learn to fly in this airplane, you can also do some really amazing things with it. So you can see I'm coming down a little bit lower here. I'll do a fast pass. Really cool. Turn back around and come the other way. And then I'm gonna do something fun. I'm gonna flip it upside down. You can see I can fly it inverted, climb out a little bit there, and then pull back around. I can do roll to the left, I can do a roll to the right, and then I can do a full loop. So again, in the experienced flight mode, there are no limitations. And as an experienced pilot, I can really appreciate just how easy handling this is for a jet. I can make these really fast and tight turns down low, and I don't have to worry about the airplane doing anything strange aerodynamically or snapping or doing anything unexpected. It's just such a great flying airplane, which is what makes it such an awesome flying trainer. But even for an experienced pilot, if you're a first-time jet pilot, this is a great first jet airplane for you. Even if you've been flying jets, it's just a lot of fun. It's a no hassles, no bad habits, easy to fly, fun to fly kind of bank and yank airplane. You can literally bank and yank. And I'll show you guys some of that inverted flying again. So upside down flying is called inverted flying. So cool. It's just so easy to do with this model. It's so well mannered. And again, guys, I'll remind you, we're flying on the stock 3-cell, 4,000 milliamp 30C LiPo battery right now. So with the 4-cell battery, which is optional, you do get more speed, more thrust, so you can fly faster and more aggressively as well, which of course for experienced pilots will be a lot of fun. If you're just learning how to fly, we don't recommend installing the 4-cell battery until you're very comfortable flying it in all flight modes with the 3-cell battery. So much fun. No bad habits. So now I'm going to show you a landing in the experienced flight mode. And one thing I want to point out, and the experienced guys that are watching this are probably going to notice this in the video, is just how slow I can land this airplane, which is really unexpected for a jet. Normally jets land very fast. Maybe they need flaps to help slow down, and this airplane doesn't have flaps because it doesn't need them. So you can see I'm coming in, I'm bringing the nose up. Look at that. I'm basically flying almost high alpha to set it right down on the mains, and I can even hold elevator, and look at that. I'm holding the nose up, almost touching the tail on my rollout. Just a really, really cool experience with this airplane. And I'll taxi it back here. So there you guys have it. That is the E-flite Habu STS 70mm EDF. It is a trainer. You can actually learn to fly now on a jet aircraft, which is something that's never been available or possible in our hobby before, which is absolutely amazing. If you're an experienced pilot looking for a great first EDF jet, this is it. If you're an already experienced jet pilot looking for just something fun to fly, no hassles, absolutely enjoyable, that you can also maybe teach your friends to fly with, this is it. Again, E-flite Habu STS 70mm EDF. Be sure to check it out. Thank you.